All right, we are live. Hello there. Welcome to today's stream. So, today's stream is about my first portfolio as an architecture student. And the reason I'm reviewing this is, first of all, to give some students that are currently in architecture or design school a chance to maybe hear from somebody looking back on the mistakes that one did while you're in school, like not having the context of what you should be preparing for school. Fair warning, I was in a very, very bad place personally when I first made this portfolio. So it's not very good at all. In fact, somebody at the time came up to me after I had presented it in a portfolio class and said it just wasn't me, like what happened, and I really didn't have anything to say about it. So now that I've worked recently on a portfolio website and reviewed my current work, my most recent work, and where it is that I want to take my career moving forward, what skills do I want to acquire, what things do I want to build on to get better, kind of seeing like who I was in my past and was there anything here that I could have done to maybe communicate more clearly what it is that my value is as a designer and what sort of thing I contribute to a design practice. So that's obviously the cover page. Looking at it now, I don't hate what I did with the title. And mind you, this is the only print portfolio I have designed. After this one, it's all been digital portfolios, And for those of you asking, well, if you had to go in person somewhere, like what would you take in order to show your work? Like a QR code, or I'd take a tablet and I'd walk them through my website. Hey there, EM in the chat. Thanks for dropping in. And at any point in time, if anybody wants to ask a question, go ahead and drop that in the comments below. All right, so first thing, cover page. What would I have done? I'm always been into red, kind of shifted that into like an orange hue for my visual mode branding moving forward. And I think it works pretty well here to silhouette this over the top. The way that the lighting on the object actually cuts through the shadowed areas, which are showing much more saturated, is really good. Like you can read the object, but it also inspires like some curiosity. I would have placed it a little bit differently. I should have probably opened this on the iPad, so I could have marked this up, but I'm just going to use my mouse. So I would have maybe like positioned this like on a diagonal, like this way through the page, and zoomed in way more so that it maybe, I don't know if I would have brought it all the way to the bottom left edge, maybe like left the bottom left as a little white triangle, but having this lean this way essentially. And definitely my name a lot smaller and in a thinner typeface. So from here, that was the cover. So now we're at spreads. I think the size is A3. So always been a fan of Pablo Picasso. Man, I forget what the name of this font was. And looking back, I can't believe I was using it like I was. It could work for titles and it can lend itself to be creative or techie, but I wouldn't use that font now for any text or any small labels could work, but not subtitles like the date there. As for the actual symbols, this was clearly just a screenshot I threw in there. I'd probably put this through Illustrator, do an image trace so that I get some shapes and vectors for those objects, for those shapes, and cleaned it up there in Illustrator and would have ended up with a really bomb diagram. All right. Yeah, page numbers on top of images with nothing. Not great. It's like, why are we even doing this, right? Table of contents, I would have aligned that title over to the left. Everything is left aligned or aligned to the edges. So I would have kept everything towards the perimeters. That would have actually celebrated really well just a clean rectangle on every page, which I don't hate. It's simple. It's not like too interesting. But when it comes to architecture portfolios, or really just portfolios, maybe like 3D artists too, you want to go minimal with your layout, I feel. You want to really have a simple, straightforward, easy to read structure, because your images are going to be jam-packed with color, with detail, etc. So having a chaotic or trying to be interesting with your layouts or with your graphic design and etc., I think competes too much with the images that are ultimately what you're highlighting in your portfolio. So I don't know why I grayed out the images around the table of contents. Probably just wouldn't have done that. Maybe, you know, what would be interesting, like how I did this little silhouette line on the top of this shape here, maybe just cut out sky and ground planes. So like same thing here, like if I could somehow just have had like the shape of each thing sort of just floating in there with no ground plane or no sky, or maybe faded them out really like a lot and just pop out the items that are designed in those images. So this was oh man, so this was maybe like a year or two before graduation. So this might have been the last project that I worked on at this point. Yep. So this was after my study abroad in Italy. So this was a old train yard in Italy that had gone like essentially really unused. It was more for like storing broken down trains. So where this building is at right here in the bottom, this line that goes through right here, could have probably highlighted that here, is a active train line. The only thing is they would then, where this curve is now is actually a deviation that happens right here for the trains. So then they get parked over here and stored all around, coming off of this main line. So basically just getting rid of all that, but paying a little bit of homage to the old train line there, kind of creating sort of like a main vein in there for that ground level. This is about the portfolio, not about the design, but I'm reliving it a little bit. Yeah, those models are really interesting, like folding these different curved surfaces and just trying to get those curves just right, and probably should have gone back and forth more with digital and physical. Oof, if I could have done a model and gotten those curves right and then just 3D scanned it and refined it in 3D. I wish we had 3D scanning on our cell phones back then. This is 2016. This sounds like so long ago. So yeah, this was immediately before the study abroad. And this is that design studio where you get very, very technical. As far as layout, like I would have probably, yeah. So large images, I would have grounded. So I don't like floating. I mean, I've seen it used pretty well. It's rarely seen though that you put like the largest image in the page that isn't grounded to the bottom of the page, especially in print. That when you have a really, really large image and it's taking up the top, again, it can work. It's just not commonly seen. Or I just generally prefer to ground large images towards the bottom of the page. Now that I'm saying like that's not commonly seen, I'm immediately thinking of like a bunch of like magazine ads and such that all do this. All right, and then yeah, I would have added like titles and text in that middle section, added some more text to the left, or maybe not titles, maybe not text here, but like call outs, like labels into what all these different portions on the right hand side are. Large on there. So yeah, this is that. So suppose we're finishing, I'm not sure why I'm finishing one project and starting another. Again, calling out everything that you don't need to do, like very, very like bottom level. You're in the middle of school, you're doing your first portfolio, like these are very fundamental, like avoid this. Even like, I think also like the reason I ran into a lot of these fundamental issues is in school. I don't know why for architecture it's still the case. They highly suggest against you using templates, and I don't get it. I mean, I've thought about it. It's like the argument from some people were, well, we're designers, we should be able to design our own layouts, we should be able to take on graphic design. Valid argument. but templates only help you learn better, right? Like you're not going to get it right the first, second, third, or fifth time doing a graphic design thing and executing it really, really well if what you're focusing the majority of your time on is the design of spaces and buildings and you're building models and all this jazz, and you have to get into photography and 3D rendering. There's so many skills you have to pick up. Like graphic design is such an important one. Presentation design is such an important one. Learn through templates. I mean, I've maybe like bounced back and forth, like play devil's advocate with myself on that, but that's kind of where my head's at. So don't finish one project and start another in one spread. The spread should be a fresh project, and it should be very clear that it's a fresh project. So a break page in between projects would have been nice, like a full page break of just like money shot, new project, here's the details, and then you just get into it. Yeah, a lot of call outs, not a lot of, but some call outs here, labels to what these things are. Because like if you understand an architectural project, you know what these are, but still like you always label your stuff. And yeah, here I'm doing it again, finishing one project, starting another. And if you are going, this is specific for architecture, or I guess like if you're going to be going into anything that's technical, if you're going into print media, there's a lot of technical aspects you have to be aware of in print. So taking an element that's very, very technical, like a floor plan or a magazine spread, business card, and showing how, like calling out very specifically why certain things or certain dimensions are spaced out a certain way. You know, in print, you have your bleeds or you have your, you know, etc. And then here, like probably what the structural elements are, like what the, yeah, in a plan. I mean, when it comes to the technical ability, it's really like how are you using the software to meet technical constraints, technical requirements. That's really what it comes down to. So in showing a technical project, just having one page dedicated to breaking apart one drawing or one element like that and showing that you have an appreciation for those details goes a huge way for someone looking to trust you with doing work with a high attention to detail. This project coming up was really, really fun. I'll say that. I have a rogue page number there. And yeah, again, grounding the images all the way to the bottom. Man, I have forgotten just how bad this was. I mean, I almost want to just turn this stream into a conversation about the projects themselves. But I mean, everything I've said already applies to these. I guess maybe I thought I was being interesting, like in some weird way. Again, like I was not at a good time in my studies or life when I was putting this portfolio together. So hopefully my embarrassment serves you as a lesson. Oh man, like especially something like this bottom one, like looking at it now, it was a combination of like 3D, illustration, collage, Photoshop, all that stuff, and like there's a texture to it and a high level of detail. Like making a shot like that as a full spread for introducing the project is fantastic, because then also there's enough, if you enlarge that enough, you know, you've got margin to kind of put a box or, you know, data layout. What am I trying to say? You can throw in shapes to mask out parts of the image or go on top of the image and be able to show labels, be able to show text, project descriptions, when the full shot has, you know, quite a bit of context contained in that photo or image. Yeah, this next project could have been one spread. If you can make one project like this one, infill housing, like I did all these little models. Oh man, like if I would have taken this whole row right here of iterations that I went through or variants that I went through, and I made that go across a full spread so you could really, really see it, and then have all these other elements throughout the spread and a good composition. If one project has some good, you know, substance, but you can make it work as like one spread, I think that, you know, it also like is good for like retaining attention. It's more of a dynamic experience. Like you can, you know, put myself through a very technical, very heavy project and a lot of like really colorful and saturated images, and then just like boom, here's one project in one spread. It's a change of pace in the project, and kind of like is a little bit of a breather, or mentally it's a little bit of a rest. And then this last one, I remember I got really funky with trying to make this this was my wallpaper for my laptop for a long time. No blank pages. Don't is there a good argument for leaving a page blank in printed media? I don't think so. Unless it's like a self-help book and you're prompting the reader to do work and write. And then I put my well, that's my old information. I shouldn't be showing that, but maybe I'll nothing too sensitive in there. But yeah, that was a resume. So I ended on a resume, and I would have put the resume maybe in the beginning. Yeah, start with the resume. Start with the resume or end with the resume? I think, well, man, that's so, yeah, it's so subjective to industry, what type of job you're applying to, what type of work you're going for, and what content. Like, there's so many contextual things to go to that, because certain people are just looking for certain skills or certain experience that you may have, and so you know, they're much less interested, and they will stay with the portfolio a lot less, not having that information firsthand. On the other hand, like if you're going for something like a social media content creator or graphic designer, you know, if you're going for video editing, stuff like that, if animation, 3D art, motion graphics, like all that, for all that stuff, it's like you want a 1 minute, 3 minute reel of your best work, and like that is enough to get you in, you know. You don't even have to see a resume. So yeah, on that resume point, you know, you can let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with that, or if you have any more input to what I've said here. But yeah, I think let's see, real quick, I'm gonna just make myself feel a little bit better and give myself a little bit more credibility on this stream, looking at my current portfolio. So there were some different portfolios along the way. Is this my best portfolio? I think so. Is it gonna get better? Absolutely. I had like called it finished. I think I had called it like finished enough to where I could start using it just to talk about my work. And there are some things that I still would clean up, so we could talk about those things. So first off, I mean, in desktop, this experience of the images coming up, I've gotten mixed responses about this, because they're like, oh, it's covering what's going on in the background. But actually I did a neat little trick here with the scroll animation. So from this point to this point, we've only gone through like 15% of the animation, and then the remaining 75, you know, happens a lot, you know, more dedicated to this. I've been wanting to put an actual sky. So I was going very mute, very gray toned, and I had the CUMYK kind of like detailer theme throughout it that I've been slowly phasing out. So I think I might do a much more colorful, maybe like sunset sky, and maybe do some weird thing, and maybe not so weird like the moon. I don't know if the moon's gonna stay or not. Tell me in the comments if the moon should stay. But I think maybe like put a glow to the laptop. That might be something cool. Or make it, instead of a laptop, make it a tablet and have the screen just be like pouring colorful fluid, or have light or something. That could be way, way better. Yeah, I think I might move this tagline. I don't know. I had just had the thought of moving the tagline up, but now that I see it, I don't know if that's going to work. This, every time I see it now, I'm very, very happy with it. So, yeah, good enough for me. Not gonna critique it. Maybe copy could get better, probably. This was working perfectly fine. And this is, mind you, this is my first website on Webflow. And when I make this thinner, or when I use this on a tablet, this breaks. And that didn't used to happen. And I don't think I changed anything except colors. I might be having something to do with the font, like the frame for the text. I'm not entirely sure. That's what happens when you try to do some real unique thing with your first web design project on a new. I've done websites before. This is my first one on Webflow. This I'm happy with. The image behind it can get a lot better. I think there's just like I think besides changing the sky, it's more Photoshop work to get each one of those renders well. And I want to get the same thing happening here to the word together as I have happening for here to make it memorable. So like when they go to press that contact button, right, instead of this weird bumping thing that's happening here, together turns bold, right? Smoothly like that with variable fonts. This I thought about getting rid of altogether. Used to have way more shapes here. Maybe the moon could be interactive at this point. And I've also been considering removing this and replacing it with this. So it's taking us to the work page. Rather than doing that, just have the work at the bottom scroll in. Although I kind of do want people to just be able to go straight to work when they land on the website. But the reason I want to do that, I wanted to keep 3 menu items and add an about me. If I have to keep 4 menu items, I'd have to go for the typical, which isn't a problem. There's like a very standard thing for modern websites. You put your menu on the right-hand side, and you put your logo on the left-hand side. People just intuitively know then to do work about contact, and then the logo on the left is going to take them back home. You know, that's kind of standard. So that's how to, you know, I might as well just be like everyone else. And then, yeah, these are all my projects. If we just go into one, I'm going to get rid of the pattern here. I don't really do that with any other banner, and just spread out the client logo. Phasing out this CMYK color. I don't know if I should add instructions to these interactive 3D sections. Like each or most projects have this like 3D embed that I've been testing out with the spline tool to kind of elevate my project displays. But I don't think it's clear that you can interact with this. There's like a finger that shows up. It's very limited to what spline lets you do, unless you know 3GS, which I might just in the future have to hire somebody who knows 3GS and can do something custom like that. And yeah, I'm gonna add, there's some videos and some larger images that I want to add in between these animated galleries for some of the projects. I think contact is fine. Just contact or hit my socials. So, you know, would I even bother with a print portfolio at this point? You know, I would, but not more for me. Right? If I did a book of my work, it wouldn't be to show anybody else, because I don't know in what context like people look at print portfolios anymore. I like to think that if people receive a PDF of portfolios, that they're not printing out their candidates' portfolios and then looking at them all like that. That's such a disservice to the work that they've done, because I mean, it even happens at my work, or in just previous places I've worked, even where we're dedicated, we have equipment dedicated for printing materials, but they're only, you know, the media hasn't been prepared to be printed, or the ink is acting up or is old, or there's just so many things that can go wrong. Like today I printed something that was supposed to be a gray gradient, and it had green and red all over it. And if you're wondering if I was working in RGB and printed CMYK, no, I did not do that. But even then, if it's RGB and it's a grayscale thing, why is red and green showing up? yeah, there's just so much that can go wrong with printed portfolios being managed for hiring purposes. And I think like just for, you know, being able to talk about your work, being able to get in front of people and start to figure out what your value is to work with somebody, I'd go digital for sure. And but at some point when I feel like I've got a substantial amount of really, really good work that could make for a really cool book, I'll do like a portfolio book, thought as like a coffee table for myself, and maybe I'll gift that to people. That's really the context for me in which I'd do a portfolio. I'll close out the stream. If you have any questions or comments. Oh, I see here. EM says, love the retrospective analysis and all the self-critique. It's always good to realize your own progress. Yes, it is. It's definitely, yeah, I mean, that's also a good reason why you should keep updating your portfolio. And if you feel like you've outgrown a portfolio entirely, start anew. You know, I have, that was my very first iteration of a portfolio, and I used that for maybe like 3 or 4 more iterations. And, oh, my screen just blacked out. I see that you could see that, but I'm not seeing what you're seeing. But this is Alex Hogreth's portfolio, and exactly like what I was just talking about, he's got his portfolios as coffee table books. I think it's right here. No, that's projects. Store. I'm having to do this from my stream window. All right. So yeah, he's got like, yeah, my screen is crapped out. I don't know why this title's getting cut off. Something is going off with my hardware. But, you know, he's got his portfolio volume 5, and it's a lot of architectural visualization work. This is the guy I was following a lot and referencing a lot of my work in while I was in school. And so he's got each volume of his portfolio as a single coffee book edition. And he eliminated volume 1 and volume 2, it seems. But yeah, I think this is a fantastic way to do it. I think that's maybe where I got the idea initially. All right. So with that, I thank you for viewing. Brown HH here, but thanks for viewing. I hope me explaining my portfolio, even though it was a very, very poor one, that printed one from the beginning, maybe I should take a stab at doing a print version portfolio of what it is currently now, just to kind of go over, you know, some good things to keep in mind of, maybe more like a lecture format or presentation format. And yeah, I think really the conversation here about portfolio is like, especially if you're in architecture and you're taking a portfolio class, I hope things have changed. If they haven't, I know the majority of places have students do print portfolios. Well, I actually recently saw 3 architecture student presentations for their portfolios at our office, and they definitely did follow like a printed format. So assuming that's the case, take it as a presentation design exercise, layout exercise. And if you're gonna concern yourself over the print constraints, okay, those are great to know. But I think always think about what's the best translation of that experience that also applies to a digital portfolio, because I think ultimately that's gonna hold more weight. I'm trying to see here if I could. There's a website that you can use to display print portfolios as ebooks. I'll leave a comment in the same video once it's published on what that website is. I forget what it's called, but yeah, I'll link that down below. And you know, if you do make a print portfolio, that's a fantastic way to represent it digitally, because you just have this one link to your print portfolio. It interacts like a printed book, but it works on digital, and you can always update that book and you use the same link. So you could put that link all over the place. And if you update that portfolio, you don't have to update your links anywhere. So real neat. All right. Thanks. And if you found this useful, consider subscribing. We're getting a bit of traction. Like, follower count is increasing quite a bit with every stream. So love to have y'all here. Gonna have some ideas for future content. Format's gonna be a little bit different than what's been in the past, but we'll still have some fun creative sessions still. I love doing those with you. So I'll see you with the next one. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. I'll catch you in the next stream.